Well, everybody realizes that the Winter Olympics opening ceremony is Friday, but the actual games begin tomorrow. And with that in mind, we bring on the air with us a good friend of ours for many years, Olympic bobsledder. How cool does that sound?
It's good to be here.
Carlos Kirby is joining us on Great
You're
Day.
dressed and look like you're ready to go.
Well, I am. I mean, this is one of the shirts actually I received as part of the kit that we got for one of the Olympics I went to. So
Cool.
I keep it and bring it out as the season kind of gets here.
Now,
so
you mentioned one of the Olympics that you went to. Tell everybody, for those that may not know, your background with the Olympics.
Yeah, I'm from Des Moines, and I competed in the 90s. So I went to the 92, 94, and then was part of the U.S. delegation in 98 as well. So
cool.
all of the 90 Winter Games I covered. So
That is really cool. And someone asked me yesterday, and I didn't have an answer for this. They said, how did Carlos Kirby become a bobsledder? What did he do? Was he like some star athlete at some university somewhere that they recruited him in?
You know, it's not really very exciting, actually. I mean, I did a number of sports when I was growing up in Des Moines, and I went to school at Valley, so giving the Tigers a plug here. And I did a number of sports there, and was pretty highly recruited to play football. So just about any school in the country, I was recruited to Iowa State. Oklahoma had won the national championship the year before I graduated, so recruited by them, USC. And I figured, you know, if I could go to any of these schools, if they think I'm good enough to be able to play football, there's this sport I'd always been interested in. You know, I'd first seen it in the 76 Olympics, and it just looked like a roller coaster ride, and I thought, how fun, you know, could that be? And so I just thought, you know, if this many people think I'm this good, I wonder if I could get a chance to at least try. And that's really what started. I just thought, hey, I'd like to try it, and I just took it from there and went, and that's how I ended up making the team.
So where did you try out?
I actually went to the Olympic Training Center in Lake Placid, New York.
Okay.
So they have three now. In the 90s, basically, they were building a third one, but you have Olympic Training Centers in Lake Placid, New York, because it had two Olympic Games in 1932 and then 1980.
Okay.
And then there are obviously Colorado Springs, which is where the U.S. Olympic Committee is actually housed out of, so there's the training center there. And then they opened a new one near San Diego in Chula Vista, California, and that opened in the late 80s, early 90s. And so, but I actually never had to do any training out there. California, bobsledding, nah, it didn't make sense.
What does it take, and obviously it's more than just speed to be a good bobsledder?
Yeah, I think what really seems to be the athletes that excel the most are the ones that there were a lot of football players. In fact, I competed with Herschel Walker. I mean, he was one of the athletes that was on one of the teams with me. So what seemed to be good success are guys that weigh about 230, 240 around in there that are good with their strength and with speed as well. So usually if you get your specialty positions, so like a running back, a defensive back, wide receiver. So the ability to use your strength and your speed at the same time is really the guys who seem to excel the most.
So what we've heard, you know, in the news a lot about the women's bobsled team, because Lolo's from here. I'm sure you know Lolo.
Yeah.
Was the fact that she was put on the team, and there were people that thought she maybe shouldn't have been, and it's not nice to ask you to comment on that, but hey, why don't you go ahead and comment?
You know, I'm going to look at it this way. I think Lolo is one heck of an athlete. To do what she's done in track and field is pretty impressive. To do what she's done with just 2 years of experience in bobsledding, I think is pretty impressive. You know, there's always that piece that gets added. We had a lot of controversy in all of the years that I competed in bobsledding as well. I think there were some other really good athletes, but the problem is a line has to be drawn somewhere, and somebody's feelings are going to get hurt. So I wouldn't bet against Lolo to be able to get onto the podium when she gets there. I think a couple of the other people in the gray area that didn't make it, you know, they did really well too. They've had really good success, but like I said, you've just got to draw the line in the sand somewhere and pick your decision, make your decision, and pick your athletes. And there was a number of criteria that they based this off of. I think there were 6 different things that you had to do based off of kind of like a small decathlon that you do in the beginning of the season, so that they can rank you individually. Then you get ranked individually pushing a sled by yourself. So they have these smaller sleds so that they can compare apples to apples as you actually compete. And then how well do you compete with your teammates, because now all of a sudden it becomes a team sport. And I think they put all of these things together. And then the input, if you're a push athlete with your driver, how well is that chemistry? How well does it, do you get along?
It has to gel.
And then those, yeah, exactly. And so that's what they shoot for, and that's part of how it's made. But the problem is there's always going to be a little bit of subjectivity to it. There's
Sure.
And that's just how it is. So the team is made, and I wish them all the best of success, especially Lolo.
So how wonderful is it to wear that outfit that you're wearing? It's like sealed completely to your body, showing everything.
It's not that awesome, to tell you the truth. Because one, it does show everything you've got, and two, they're not thick. They're not made for warmth in the winter. No, they're made for speed.
So are you freezing out there?
Well, other than the horror that you have in realizing you're now about to go 90 miles an hour down this track with no seatbelt or anything else to protect you.
Right.
That adrenaline keeps you.
Right?
You do have that, and you actually will have a small. Kind of like Kevlar vest that you will wear underneath to protect you from
motocross racers have?
for burns.
Oh, for burns.
Yeah, for burns. So you do wear
Burns on
that,
ice.
but it doesn't save with broken bones or nothing like that.
Now, Lolo said yesterday, she said that her experience in going down the chute, it said it reminded her of jumping in a garbage can and being tossed from a mountain.
Yeah, that'd be about right. It's
Really?
pretty rough. Yeah, the only thing smooth about it is getting out.
So what makes you want to, are you ever scared? Because there have been things that have happened.
Yeah, there have been, and there have been people that have been killed on different races that I've had.
Yeah.
And so you always keep that part in mind. The crashes are very dangerous. This is fiberglass Kevlar with a steel frame. They break whenever the sleds crash, and so you always give it the respect that's due whenever you're racing. But if you said you weren't a little afraid, I'd kind of think you were lying. But you learn to turn that fear into adrenaline, and that's what makes it one of the best sports that's out there. I mean, it's an awesome thing to be able to do.
Now, those sleds have really advanced in the past 20 years.
They have.
Just by when they first started out as just being basic sleds going down the chute.
Yep.
Now they have engineers.
Which is where it gets the name bob sledding, is you just sit on it and you'd bob back and forth to get it going,
really?
and then down the hill you'd go, and then people began to realize, if you push this, you can go a little faster. And so they started doing that. But yeah, the technology. I mean, from the time when I started. There were two Italian guys that produced all the sleds predominantly for the world. The East Germans were blocked off, and they had their own. But and then what happened is NASCAR got involved. Jeff Bodine started to produce sleds and help design sleds for the United States. And then. Just over the last couple of years, BMW has come on and has started to design the sleds for the U.S. team.
Yeah.
So, and basically BMW worldwide is designing sleds for the different countries that they're based in, and each one's supposed to be separate with their own engineering teams, deciding how these sleds are what are the best aerodynamics, what's the best thing designed for those particular countries. And so, we'll see. But the United States has got a really tough team. So, and by tough, I mean the depth. We're really strong, and so I think they're going to make those sleds look really good. All
right, now we were talking earlier today about some of the things people are experiencing by getting over to Sochi, and some of the problems they're having, with electronics, with their phones being hijacked and pirated, their computers. Less than a minute after opening a brand new computer, people have already tapped into their computer, stealing data. What else can people expect when they go over there?
Usually you're gonna. It's kind of like driving today. I mean, you just have to be patient. There's going to be a lot of people that are there. There's going to be a lot of security, especially now with what you're dealing with in this part of the world. But there's security anyway. So every Olympics I've been to for the last 2 decades, security is very paramount. So you've just got to be patient. It's going to be wherever you go, and but I think people understand that and accept that. So, but that's something you should expect when you get there, because you're going to be dealing with that.
Now, do you have any fears? Like, I know you're not personally going over, but there's nothing but controversy surrounding this Olympics right now just because of the location. Would you have any fear going over there?
I think that one of the interesting things in being in the Soviet Union and then being in Russia, after the wall went down. In fact, I was in East Germany when the wall went down.
Really? Wow.
But one of the things is, they're different than we are. Here you have a lot of freedoms, and there they don't have as many freedoms, and their security is able to do a number of things that security can't exactly do for you here. So, it's a give and take. I think, obviously, the athletes are going to be very safe. I think because of the layers of security that you have to go through in just being an athlete, that where they're going to be is going to be pretty sequestered and a pretty safe place to be. And as far as being a spectator, there are a lot more opportunities, but I would imagine that the Soviets are going to, or the Russians are going to keep it pretty safe all the way around.
You mentioned spectators, but also some people covering the Olympics as well are starting to send back reports of things that are a little unusual. And if Eric can go to the surface here, and this is some water that was taken from the hotel room of a newspaper reporter.
Looks like they're flushing out the hydrants.
And here's what happened. Apparently, she called down to the desk and said, "What's going on with the water here?" And they said something very poisonous or something very dangerous is in the water. Don't apply it to your face.
Nice.
Don't wash your face with the water.
Not don't drink it.
No.
Don't wash your face.
I'm assuming you're not even thinking of drinking it. And by the way, if you were looking at washing with it, please don't.
But we showed that to him when you first got here, and you mentioned something about the athletes. I said, is this what the athletes have to deal with? And you had a very valid point.
Yeah, part of what they do for the U.S. athletes is before you get to the games, you go through a thing that's called the processing. Basically, the U.S. Olympic Committee brings the athletes in and basically teaches them some etiquette, some do's, some don'ts, different things about the Olympic Games. And one of the things that they inform all of the athletes that come in is, look, don't drink out of any glass. Don't drink out of anything unless you're the one who breaks the seal on that actual container. So, again, this gets to Jackie's question, and that relates to the safety of just the spectators, because the athletes are going to be taken care of with, what's provided to them. And then, the athletes are going to be eating predominantly inside the Olympic Village, and there are going to be a number of different restaurants, anything from McDonald's to, different foods that will be actually produced for the athletes. And because athletes are used to eating different things depending on what part of the world they're from, they actually will produce the type of food from where you are from. And so there will be a number of different types of
incredible.
So their body gets to go into shock?
Exactly. And just, and it's a great opportunity to test something different if you haven't tried something, or if you like Greek food or different types of foods. Those foods will be there for you to be able to eat as well. And 30, 40 years ago, the thought was that it was for those countries, and other people would come and they'd be like, well, wait, this is for, the Greeks to be able to eat, or the Italians to be able to eat. And then they just realized, hey, it's a melting pot, and this is about, getting beyond borders. And so now it's just, numerous different types of foods that everyone can just go and enjoy. And so it's pretty, and that's one of the best places because everyone goes. So all the different athletes from all the different countries are in the dining facilities. So that's where you really get to meet people that you've only seen on TV, and it's a pretty awesome place to be.
That's cool. And it makes sense. You, as an athlete, you have to watch what you put in your body.
Right.
You're about to compete at one of the biggest levels ever. And speaking of that, what's it like? I imagine it's different from everybody, but where's your mind at? Are you just there to enjoy at this point? You've gotten there. You just got to do what you know how to do, or people like.
Yeah, I think that's the key. I think you really, and I think that's an advantage that Lolo has going into these games. Because she's been to the Olympics before. Now, not the winner, but they're going to be fairly similar. And I think that piece is it allows you to focus on, and the way I looked at it, and part of what they tell you when you go through processing, hey, enjoy this experience. For a lot of athletes, making it once is all you get. Mm-hmm. So, enjoy it because you may not get back. However, keep in mind what you're here to do, which is to compete, represent the country, the best that you can, exactly, and get on that podium. So I think a lot of athletes really keep that focus. Difficulty for bobsledding is our events are, especially if you do four-man, it's the last day of the Olympic Games. So you focus on that the whole time, and then, there isn't much left except for the closing ceremonies after that. So, but, you got the rest of your life to party. So
party afterwards. That's the
get what
bottom
you're there
line.
to do. So.
Party when you get home.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So what else are you going to watch beside the bobsled?
I really enjoy speed skating. You got short track, long track. So I enjoy those. It's just smooth, and the artistry that those athletes have. And, And one of the things with Olympic athletes, what they do is extremely difficult. But at their level, it just seems so easy. So
they make it look effortless.
Yeah, they really do. So, I'm going to watch bobsledding because obviously it's what I do, and I've still got a lot of ties with it. In fact, all the coaches that are there now are guys I competed with. So, yeah,
cool.
so the women's head coach, Todd Hayes, the push coach, Mike Kahn, the U.S. Head coach, Brian Scheimer, him and I competed for years together.
Wow.
He was my pilot for a number of years.
All right.
So, yeah, so I've got a vested interest there. And then there's an Olympian, Todd Ludwig, who does Nordic combined. This will be his 6th Olympics. He is the first person, especially from the United States, the only person who's ever done 6 Olympics. And so
Nordic is the one with the gun.
No, Nordic. That's biathlon. Yeah, literally thinking of the gun.
Okay, I'm thinking of the gun. Okay.
No, Nordic is they ski jump and then they cross country ski.
Okay, that one. Okay.
Yeah, and then biathlon they ski and then shoot at targets at different intervals as they go. So but I like them all. And the piece is because as you're training at these training centers, these other athletes are there, and between training, what else do you have to do? So you meet all these guys, guys, gals, and they teach you about their sports. So you really get to learn the different ins and outs about what they do and what are the technical pieces that you're really looking for. So all of this stuff, I really have a lot of respect for all of these athletes and what they do. So I just, when these 2 weeks come, I just love it.
This is going to be cool. Now, we want to formally invite you to come to Jason, Jackie, and I's extreme curling party.
Excellent. I love curling.
So we're going to be watching curling with fists clenched.
Yeah.
So you're invited. You can come hang with us.
Roger that. I've got to do it.
Carlos, thank you, buddy.
Hey, Lou, good to meet you. Good to see you guys. Yep,
It is 2 minutes past 9 o'clock. We'll be right back.